Well, I think most of us would agree that God reveals himself to us most clearly through his written word and also through Jesus, the Word, and also by his Holy Spirit. But he's also made himself known through his creation. If a person has any doubts about God's existence, all they need to do is look closely at any part of creation and study it in depth. And as Romans 1 says, God's eternal power and divine nature will be plainly seen. Based on the title of his talk tonight, I have an idea that our speaker, Ray Gates, did just that. Flying squirrels, pitcher plants, and pikas from the Rockies, how plants, animals, and their habitats cry out that there must be a God. So Ray was a beloved professor at Cornerstone University for about 40 years. He was Professor of the Year 3 times in 3 different decades, 89, 02, and 11. And 3 different, and also was invited into the Faculty Hall of Fame, I should say Hall of Honor in 2013. He was also a park ranger and naturalist at the Yellowstone National Forest in Yellowstone National Park for 9 years, and he still leads tours of Yellowstone National Park each year. And I'm very happy to say I'm going to be going on it this year, this fall. So it's going to be fun. So I'm looking forward to our presentation tonight. I think we're in for a nice time, and we invite Ray to come now and share with us what God has put in his heart.
I want to share with you my heart and my soul of where the Lord has taken me for the last 88 semesters. I started to teach at Cornerstone in 1978. I taught botany, zoology, ecology, ornithology, all the fun outdoor classes. I was not a chemist. I struggled with genetics. Nigel Crompton, he's a lot smarter than I am. I had to really work hard to get through high school, through college. I consider myself as a conservationist. It's a term that we've lost over the decades. Conservation is one who uses the resources wisely. I consider myself a naturalist. I consider myself a botanist, a zoologist. I love frogs. And the next time we meet, I'm going to cover frogs with you. You are going to become frog experts. We're going to learn how to identify the different species of frogs that we have in Michigan. It's fairly easy because we only have 13 of them. And so I love salamanders, I love snakes, I love turtles, I love birds. And it was really a significant part of my life, studying botany and zoology, that started this passion. When I came to Cornerstone in '78, I really had a weak background in origins. And the dean said, well, you need to work in that. And there was a big conference in Vancouver, Canada. And at the time I was working for the U.S. Forest Service in Montana. So a buddy of mine who was a Christian, so we went to Vancouver, and it really changed my perspective. And I was kind of neutral on evolution, neutral on origins, but it was a real eye-opener. I always had a passion for God's creation, but I didn't have any idea how long it took him to get everything that we have today, a worldwide flood, the fossil records. I was really ignorant on all those issues. And so that really changed my perspective. So in 1978, 79 in there, I went to Vancouver, Canada, attended this week-long conference with Dr. Dwayne Gish was there. And that, I had a good background in zoology, so I understand the fossil records. And then Henry Morris, Sr., was there. And so it really changed my life. If I were to do it again, go back to teaching, I would recommend these 2 books. These are devotional books. The theme of irreducible complexity. Michael Behe came up with that term, I think, in 1996. If you've got kids or grandkids going to college, I would recommend these books. It's an easy read, and they would take an animal or a plant and look at its complexity and say, there must be a God. And so I really, really enjoyed these the last 10 years or so when I was teaching, because I like to tie that in as we study God's creation. My favorite verse is in Romans chapter 1, verse 18, 19, and 20, that we know that there's a God through the things that He has made, so we are without excuse. Okay? So these are really, really good. I wish there was something like this just on Michigan's species of plants and animals that tie in an intelligent designer. The other thing I would do is have Chuck speak to my classes. My last, 5 years, he was a guest speaker. He does a great job. As a teacher, I think the challenge is bringing this stuff down to the students' level, or people in our churches that don't have a science background, so they can understand it. And some of the stuff, especially with genetics, you guys had Dr. Crompton, Nigel. He's way over my head, okay? And so it's a challenge for people, especially people with PhDs, and when they're bringing this into our churches, can they bring it down so the people that don't have a science background would understand it? So that's my background. A few other things, well, I'll share those later, but I want to share with you a song, The Creation Calls, by Brian Dirksen. Has anyone heard it before? In churches, I would get the hymnal out. And anything that had a nature theme, I would read those, okay? The daily breads. Every time I get a new daily bread, I would go in the back, creation. I always like to read the themes that had a creation theme to them, to those certain sections. And this one is a Christian song. I have not heard it, except for How Great Thou Art. I mean, that's an oldie. But this is a newie. And so this was shared with me by a guy named Steve Mueller. Anybody know Steve? He was the director of the Howard Christensen Nature Center. He was the director of the Wedgie Nature Center. And we became good friends, and we were on different pages when it came to origins. He was a strong theistic evolutionist. He believed in God, but believed in evolution to the max. And so we had debates about this issue, and he was the one that found this. And then to me, it was an instant love. And so let me play the first song here for you. The Creation Calls by Brian Dirksen. I love this. What I would like to do is take the same song and just put slides of Michigan sand dunes, the bogs, the wetlands, the beech maple forest when the flowers are blooming. Think we hit the lights? Lights?
Over on the right. Further, over on the right in the black.
Oh, I got it.
How could I say there is no God when all around creation calls a singing bird?
Thank you.
A mighty tree, the vast expanse of open sea.
Turn it up on the TV, Gator.
Oh, how did I do that?
I don't know.
Gazing at a bird in flight, soaring through the air, lying down beneath the stars. I feel your presence there. I love to stand at ocean shore and feel the thundering breakers roar. To walk through golden fields of grain, beneath endless blue horizons newborns cry at birth. How could I say there is no
My
God
best part.
when all around creation calls? A singing bird, a mighty tree, the vast expanse of open sea. I like to stand at ocean shore and feel the thundering breakers roar, to walk through golden fields of grain, neath endless blue horizons frame. Just like a child. I believe.
Good song, don't you think? It's a song that I think reaches all age levels. So when I study the complexity of the cell, the species, the ecosystems, all the major levels of biodiversity, how could you not believe when you see the beauty? One of the classes I taught at Cornerstone was biology and botany, and we would take our students out to a bog. Have you ever been to a bog? You haven't lived until you experienced a bog. Bogs are unique because of the insect-eating plants, pitcher plants, and sundews. We'll talk more about pitcher plants a little bit later. Also poison sumac, not staghorn sumac, a poison sumac. Staghorn sumac grows where it's dry, and it's got red berries. Poison sumac grows where it's wet, and it's got white berries. White berries. Okay, it's a good plant. Next week I'll bring some in so you can see it up close. Don't want to mess with it. So they've got poison sumac. So it's a plant that's very useful, especially if you like to hunt, fish, camp, hike. It's a good one to learn. By the way, there's no poison oak in Michigan. We have poison ivy, but no poison oak. Poison ivy and poison sumac releases the same chemical onto your skin. But we would take this bog walk. Jim Epping did it over at Rockford, and we would experience it firsthand. You ready for this? Maybe the next time we come, we can do this. Take you out to the bog. Bogs help to actually purify our water. They make our water cleaner, wetlands in general. Wetlands serve as a sponge. They soak up excess water so cities aren't flooded out. Nature's supermarket. A lot of species, especially frogs, reptiles, birds, need wetlands for their survival.
Peter, where is this?
This is Salt Lake Bog. Most of it's owned by the Land Conservancy, West Michigan. It's out near Townsend Park, that area. About 30 miles from here or so, 30 minutes. I got permission from the private owner to take our classes so we can actually get out onto the mat and walk it. So it's like a big waterbed. The feeling is very unique. They're on the mat now. It's another huge false bottom. Neat orchids bloom in the midsummer on the bog mat during the summer. The insect-eating plants, the coniferous plants, are very unique that grow out there. That's cotton grass, the white. When I became a Christian in 1972, I wanted to integrate my life into teaching, into my dating life, into my academics, into sports. And teaching, the two major areas is origins. Again, I believe that God has created everything in a short period of time. I believe in a worldwide flood. I also believe that God has called us to be caretakers, to be a conservationist of our natural resources. And the Daily Bread did a nice series on trees. You should see it. And the theme that came out, they talked about all the uniqueness of trees and what they provide for us. But they also tied it into Job. And when Job was going through a hard time, God said, hey, look at the sand dunes. Look at the bog plants. Look at the mountains. Look at the stars. Can you trust me when you don't have all the answers? And I think sometimes as we go through life, we don't have all the answers, do we? Especially through difficult times. And I think it's a decision that we make to trust God. And so I tell my students when they take a class in biology at Cornerstone, this is not going to happen to you. And I'm proud of where I've taught for the last 90 semesters almost. Our biology department has always taken a pretty good strong stand on origins, a young earth, worldwide flood, that God has created the different kinds of plants and animals. That has not changed in 40 years. Now, I can't say that for the Bible department. And it's a common theme. If you go to different Christian colleges, it's the science people that usually take a pretty conservative stand on origins. It's the Bible people that have a different perspective. You would think that. A lot of people don't think that, but I think that's true. And so, my high school biology class, we dissected formaldehyde bullfrogs. Boring, boring, boring. And that's the only thing I remember about I wish I had you, Chuck, as a high school biology teacher, or Jim Epping. It would probably change my perspective on a lot of things. Now, it wasn't until I went to Sheridan College in Sheridan, Wyoming, at the base of the Bighorn Mountains. Anybody been there? And I took a botany course, and it changed my life. And we went outside. And I love getting outside. I love getting out in the wetlands. When I was a student, zoology would take the kids out at night catching frogs with gasoline lanterns. It was just something special, to see these animals in their natural habitats up close. And I took this botany class, and we went up in the mountains, in the Bighorn Mountains. It was my first taste. I love the mountains. I love the alpine tundra. I just love being in the outdoors and in those mountains. And we saw this flower. Does anybody know what this is? The common name? Anybody? It doesn't grow in Michigan. It's called elephant head. Yeah. Elephant head. Elephant head. Do you see it? Do you see it? Yeah. And actually the color is more pink than white. And it was, wow. Now here, I was 6'5". I shrunk an inch or two. I weighed 170 pounds. I've gained a few pounds. And wow, I said, isn't that neat? And then we went up the street and we saw this one. This one grows in Michigan, but I've never seen it in Michigan. This one's called a shooting star. Does it look like a shooting star to you? And it triggered a passion. I was a little bit concerned because I didn't want my friends see me getting excited about flowers, because only old ladies study wildflowers, right? And so I didn't want them to think I was kind of weird. This one is called monkshood. Monkshood. Beautiful, dark blue, grows in the wetlands, along streams, is a really neat one. And the last one, I've only seen it once. I want to see it again, but it blooms in May. When I go to Yellowstone, it's usually late summer or September, so I always miss it. Early May, as soon as the snow melts, this guy's blooming. If you go to Old Faithful, you can see it growing around the Old Faithful Inn, called, anybody know? What does it look like? Steer's head. And so it was botany that triggered an interest in the outdoors for me. One thing I learned in this class was dead trees. When I saw a dead tree, I saw firewood. Chop that mammy-jammy down. And I realized over 100 species of birds and mammals will use hollow dead trees. It is critical. So if you value animals, now if you got a tree near your house, you want to take it down. But if you have some acreage and you have a tree in the backyard, not keep it up. So it's really critical. So I'm not just learning about the beauty of God's creation, but making those important ecological connections. And this zoology professor that I had studied animals said, let's go out and see this guy. Anybody know what it is? Yeah, baby, have you seen one? Have you ever seen a freshwater jellyfish? Does anybody know the scientific name? You're gonna learn it. Craspedocuskasabi. You think you remember it? You know, I went to a conference on jellyfishes, and the guy said it wrong. I said, I have to correct him. Okay, maybe I've been pronouncing it wrong for 30 years. I think it's Craspedocuskasabi. They're in Michigan, and you see them in the fall. And Google it. Google freshwater jellyfishes in Michigan. You see them at Camp Rogers. You know where Camp Rogers is at? They have them. If you live near a lake, you may see them. They're about the size of a quarter. I did a paper on them in graduate school. I described them as a gob of spit. The paper came back with a lot of ink, red ink on it. Said this is not a very good scientific way of describing the freshwater jellyfish. Well, 30 years later, it still looks like a quarter, a gob of spit. So they're really neat. So it was jellyfishes, the animals now triggered an interest. How about this guy? Any fishermen? Anybody like to fly fish? This is a caddisfly. I love streams. I love going outside. I think, if you can get your people interested in the outdoors, in animals, maybe they'll start looking at the topic of origins. Maybe they'll be a better steward of God's creation. This guy is a larvae, and he builds a case of little tiny pebbles, and he's living in that case. And there's lots of different species of these. Now, if you like the fly fish, the flies will imitate what these guys look like. Mayflies, stoneflies, all those guys. And so that's a caddisfly. Okay, and it's really neat. Our streams over at Townsend Park, Bear Creek, that's one of the most productive streams. If you catch lots of different species of aquatic insects, it tells you that the stream is in good shape. If you don't catch a lot, it tells you the stream is in poor shape. Maybe we can take this group out instead of a stimulating lecture. Maybe take you out into the field and catch these different aquatic insects. It's a real eye-opener. Even when I taught biology, there was a lot of business majors in my general biology course, so it's a real challenge to get them excited about biology, and this is one of the things that did it. Anybody know this guy? So the larvae, not the adult, the larvae of the dragonfly. Now you can't see it, but they have a very unique way of breathing. In their rectum or their butt, okay, same thing, rectum or the butt, they have gills in their butt. And they take it, and you can actually see that when you collect them in a tray, you can see water going inside the rectum. In the rectum, they have gills, and they breathe through their butt. When I die, the first thing I'm going to ask God, why did you not create us with gills in our butt? I would love to have gills in my butt. When these guys metamorphize, this is the larvae stage, into the adult stage, they lose the gills and they develop lungs and they survive. And how could that have happened by chance? Again, when I see how these guys metamorphize from the adult stage into the adult stage, I see, I see it in intelligent designer. I don't like the term Mother Nature, okay? I define Mother Nature as macroevolution with a dress on. Macroevolution with a dress on. It's kind of a sneaky way of introducing our kids to macroevolution. So I always called it a master designer. Now the theme is an intelligent designer, or irreducible complexity, all that stuff. Now, next time we meet, we're going to talk about frogs. We would go out at night at Spring Arbor with nets and lanterns to catch frogs, salamanders, turtles, and snakes. At night, I can still remember the first time. Right now, the spring peepers are out, the chorus frogs are out, and the wood frogs are out. Spring peepers sound like this, beep, beep. Chorus frogs, like you're rubbing your thumb down the blade of your comb, okay? And the wood frogs sound like baby ducks, quack, 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 quack. Now, you're going to be experts. There's not very many of them, 13. Half of them are pretty rare, so you're down to about 8 or 9 frogs. So you're going to become frog experts. If you have frogs in your backyard, bring them in a bucket. That'll help to see the real thing. Those slides are one thing, seeing the real thing up close is another thing. So we're going to focus on frogs, okay? How about these guys? What is him? Has anyone ever seen one of these? They're as common as the other squirrels. Yeah, very good. Got 2 species of flying squirrels in Michigan, a northern species and a southern species. I would raise these as pets. When I was a college student, I had 4 of them, and they would stay in the dormitory with me at Spring Arbor. And I had them trained to run from my hand, up my shoulder, in my shirt pocket. They're strictly nocturnal night creatures. They're real common. If you live in the countryside, you got trees around your house, you probably have them in your bird feeders at night. I manage my feeders for flying squirrels. So I put my seed in late in the afternoon. And I got about 5 of them coming into the bird feeders, and they're just going nuts. It's really neat to see them. The books will tell you that they don't make good pets, but they're wrong, okay? The adults do not tame down, but if you get the babies, they tame down and they make really, really, really good pets. If I had a nickel, at one time they glide, they don't fly. They have a loose flap of skin between the legs. That loose flap of skin, by the way, has 2 scientific terms. You ready? The first one is called a patagium. The second scientific term is called a loose flap of skin. I'll remember the loose flap of skin. And they're beautiful when they glide. They're just gorgeous. And they're as common as the other squirrels, you just don't see them. Another thing that they do, here's this kind of the intelligent design theme. In the fall, they've never experienced a winter before, but they begin to store acorns, about 300 acorns a night. A guy from the University of Michigan did a study on this. He got his PhD, got him either review back in the 60s. On their feet are special glands, and they deposit an oil on these acorns. And the squirrels can smell that through 2-3 feet of snow to relocate the acorns in the wintertime when they eat them. 300 acorns a night they're storing to survive the winter. Another thing that they do, they've never been through a winter before. September, October, they're storing acorns. Just by chance or an intelligent designer? Again, I see an intelligent designer.